to Pistol Week. Special thank you to my lovely patrons, especially Nerf Nothing, for being such a pro patron. Greetings audience, I'm Boomstick, and today we're going to be talking about the lightning bug from Impact498. Now, the lightning bug is a compact flywheel blaster using Krakens and custom flywheels that take Talon mag, so obviously it fires half darts. It also has a handy-dandy end strike stock attachment for those of you who have Nerf stocks, which I seem to be lacking in that regard at the moment. So you'll see that in some of the later videos that I seem to be lacking Nerf stocks. So it also has these neat little iron sights along the top, although as you can see, no Picatinny rail anywhere. Although it does have a nice little sling point here, which we'll get back to in a minute. Now, if you're a longtime viewer of the Boomstick Mods channel and you go way back, you might remember a thing called the Foxfire. Now, the Foxfire is kind of the original version of the lightning bug, we'll say, also designed by Impact498. It uses the same clamshell 3D printed design with a modular setup. Now, this was years ago, and since then Impact498 has designed quite a few other things, all kind of within this same wheelhouse. Both the Dragonfly and the Raptor come to mind, which are kind of like this same kind of style, just with different options, whether it be higher FPS, solenoids, full auto, stuff like that. And of course, I'll have Impact498 shop linked down below in the description. I will say, for such a compact blaster, it does have a rather spacious battery tray, so I actually had no issue fitting this 3S LiPo in there. And it also has this really nice flared magwell for easy reloads. Although, speaking of the magma, I will say it won't gravity drop on its own. If you want it to gravity drop, you will have to shake it a little bit, which not a big deal, but I personally like being able to just gravity drop mags off, especially for more PvP type games. Now, one of the minor complaints I have is with this sling point. I don't like how it feels, and I'm not sure how much I trust this sling point. Now, the blaster is fairly light, so it's not that big of a deal, but it's definitely something that I would be cautious of. Now, I will say I'm running this on 3S LiPo. It is technically designed to run on a 2S. However, I've been running it on 3S because it just gives me a little bit more of that FPS boost. Not a whole lot, and we'll talk about that when we talk about running it in the field. But it is something to note that it is technically meant to run off of a 2S. I just happen to have a lot more 3S's lying around than I do 2S. Now, I do not believe you can print this yourself anywhere. I do believe you can only get this from Impact498. However, this is probably one of the cheaper flywheel blasters that you can get right now, I want to say. They're currently on his Etsy for about $75, which is a really good price for what this is. I will say that is a pretty big pro considering what you're getting out of this. Because if you compare it to the Quick, while the Quick, in my opinion, does look better, feel better, and has full auto, this is still going to be twice as much as a lightning bug. Now, speaking of comfort, I will say that the grip is a bit small for me, and some of the prints are a little rough on the hands. It's not bad, but it's definitely not the most comfortable grip. It's a little on the small side for me, especially near the bottom here where my pinky ends up going over that. If it had been a little bit longer for my hand, I would preferred it. And up in here, it's rather cramped. It's not uncomfortable to the point where I hate holding it in my hand. Like, I've had issues with some other blasters where I just hate holding them. But it is definitely noticeable in that it's a little bit small for my hands. The semi-auto trigger, though, does feel rather nice. It's just a simple stripe style spring where it attaches to the trigger and back here in the stock, and it pushes the dart into the flywheels. Now, aesthetically, I will say I love the fact that it is symmetrical, which I know can be difficult for the vertical flywheels, which I do prefer, But I know it can be difficult to get them more symmetrical because of how much the motors will stick out on one side. But I think because the flywheels are also on the larger side, it ended up making it a bit more even on both sides. Other than that, though, I will say it's very brick. Much like many of his other designs, I'm not personally a fan of his aesthetics. Now, performance-wise, I've seen really good things. I'm just not personally a fan of this very blocky look. That's just my opinion on it. However, if you're okay with this bricky style, by all means, go for it. But I think that's enough about the general overview. Let's take it onto the field and push through its paces, shall we? I was able to field the Lightning Bug at a Southern Maryland House of Nerf event where the FPS cap is 150. And much like the Quick, the compact design makes it very easy to take shots while hugging the cover. When I put the Lightning Bug over the chronograph, I got an average of 150 FPS, which was perfect for the Southern Maryland House of Nerf field. I found it works really well for players that like to move from cover to cover or run with a shield. The Lightning Bug can take those precise shots that you need, or you can just spam the trigger and dump the whole mag in hopes of getting that tag. Got it. And despite the grip being a bit cramped, I was able to maneuver and fire the blaster quite easily. It's definitely going to be an excellent blaster for those fast-moving players. Now it's time for my overall thoughts on the Lightning Bug. Now, running this at an event with a 150 FPS cap, this thing is fantastic. I really enjoyed running this for those 150 FPS games. Now, obviously, because it's a custom built blaster, you can't exactly build it for other FPSs. The lowest you're going to get is 130s to 140s on a 2S, or 140s to 150s on 3S from my experience. And unfortunately, that kind of eliminates it from most HVZ groups because I believe most HVZs cap at 130, and if you're getting in the 140s, they're not going to let you use this for HVZ, even though this would be a fantastic HVZ blaster just for how compact it is, which is a big selling point for the Lightning Bug. So I will say, if you're playing at 150 FPS games, this is actually a very good option. You'll obviously get more outranged at 200 FPS games, but you could still run this and be somewhat competitive with it, because it is that nice compact semi-auto which gives you very good control over your triggers, and you can spam darts pretty fast on a semi-auto. So obviously, pros: price, fantastic price for what this is. Performance, especially for 150 FPS games. Just how compact and how it does on the field, I've got really no complaints about how it performed. Really, my only cons are, I think it looks a little blocky and that grip is a little cramped. And aside from those two, I do think this is a very good option, which surprised me because I wasn't expecting to like this one as much as I ended up liking it, mostly based off aesthetics and the small grip, but getting out there on the field and getting to use it, I was pleasantly surprised. So, let's bring in our little graph here, and we're going to put the Lightning Bug there. So there you go. This is the Lightning Bug from Impact498. It's a nice, compact, semi-auto flywheel pistol for those PvP games. So definitely check it out. Check out all the links, and let me know what you think. Because who doesn't want to be the menace on the field that the other players never saw coming?